all, and welcome to the Indie Author Life Show. I'm your host, MG Hunt, and today I'm here with someone whose life and work are grounded in a deep appreciation for the human experience. He's also a self-confessed football tragic. Shout out to Arsenal FC. So please welcome to the show, Ben Tobler. Thank you for being on the show, Ben.
Thanks for having me on this
No
really
worries.
cold winter morning.
Yes, and you're based in New South Wales, is that right?
Yeah, on the Tablelands. So it was about
Ah,
-6 here this morning,
oh my goodness. That is like unfathomable for the Melbourne weather
and
here. I thought we were
that's
cold.
warm compared to what we've had the last week or so. So
That's
it's
crazy.
fantastic.
I
Wood
can't.
fire weather, it's brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. Have you got a wood fire at home?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
you
love
need to. Oh my
it.
goodness. I don't envy the cold winter mornings that you have, unless that's your thing, unless you don't mind.
I don't mind it for about the first 3 or 4 weeks, and then it
Yeah.
just becomes oppressive.
Oppressive. Yeah, yeah.
I'd take it over the heat though, because you can always warm up.
That's true. The heat would get pretty bad. How hot does it get around your area?
Oh, if 32 is probably a bad day. So
Okay.
we're not that hot, but
Okay.
I lived at a place where it was kind of 40 most days in summer,
Yep.
and
Mm.
I'd take the cooler temperatures over that any day.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I'm probably someone who loves the spring and loves the autumn, but when it gets into the intensity, I just go, nah, I'm sick of this. I want the opposite of what we currently have right now. And
Yep.
Melbourne's not too bad, we'll say, when it comes to that. So, yes, alrighty. So I should get into a little bit more, asking a bit more about yourself in particular. Can you give us an insight into your background and where you grew up?
I actually grew up exactly where I live. I
Mm.
moved away for a little while and met my wife overseas, and we did a little bit of traveling. And but when we had our first son, we moved back. It's a small town called Uralla.
Yep.
Um, 2,500 people roughly. We're on the major highway between Sydney and Brisbane.
Yep.
I don't want to really go into a massive tourist industry spiel about the town, but it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I am a school teacher by trade, but I've done a few other things recently.
Hmm.
I teach history and English,
Mm.
and other than that, that's my exciting life. It's teaching and writing and reading and sport is pretty much what we
Sounds like
do.
sounds like a great combination. And I'm
Not a lot
sure.
of playing sport these days. I had back surgery last year, so I'm still kind of
Oh,
still
okay.
recovering from that, unfortunately.
That's a bit of a shame. But I'm sure you played for a lot of your life. Is that right? Football?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I played kind of football and cricket and
Yeah.
all that kind of thing. I try to play golf, but try is the right word to emphasize there.
Yeah. Sport is great like that because it is something that keeps giving. There's always a new season to get into. And even if your team's not doing so well one season, the next season, then you just
It's
tune
always
in.
next year.
That's
Always
right.
next year.
Always next year. So between your love of sport and writing, and also teaching as well, I think a lot of it does kind of complement each other because I'm sure that your love of writing bleeds into your passion, for teaching as well because you're an English and history teacher. World.
I mainly I did a lot of I did my master's and kind of in history as well. And
Yeah.
my main research focus is Roman Britain, which
Oh, cool.
unfortunately we don't get to actually teach a lot of. But I
Yeah.
do a lot of work. I teach a lot of year 11, 12 ancient history. So
Yeah, that's
Pompeii
cool.
is a huge
Yeah.
kind of thing. So that's really interesting.
Yes.
I did a little bit of academic writing in on Pompeii. Nothing overly groundbreaking or famous or anything, but it's a really interesting topic. I kind of like exploring a little bit as well on the side.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's so rich in history and also story as well because it just feels like another world back in that
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
and there's more and more fiction kind of coming out, or
Yes.
alternative history coming out about that kind of era as well, which is really interesting to read.
And I will just keep on exploring that. So maybe that could be something that you're interested in exploring with your writing, maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Possibly. I
Possibly.
kind of see that as crossing the work and the work
Yeah.
and pleasure kind of barrier. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not sure.
hard.
I'd probably get too invested in the research side of things, I think.
And making sure it's all like, I don't know, like historically correct and things like that rather than like letting the story evolve, maybe. But
Yeah, I would say that's where I'd go, unfortunately.
yeah,
It would probably be a very dry read.
that's okay. But you never know. You never know. I could foresee that being something that, yeah, that would be a really cool thing to explore maybe one day. But we'll see. We'll
One day.
see. One day, because I'm sure there's other projects that you might be working on
There's a little
right
bit
now.
there, yeah.
Yes. So I'm curious then with your activities that you do throughout the week and your different passions, what does a day or a week look for yourself?
I'm very much a man of routine.
Yep.
So most kind of work days are pretty much exactly the same. Usually up about 6 o'clock and I'm in the car for my 40-minute drive by about 7, dodging kangaroos, deer, wild pigs, foxes, all the things that you have to cater for when driving in the bush.
Yep. That's Australia for you.
Scraping the frost off your car first when you forget to put it in the garage is always a good
Mm-hmm.
thing as well. My work day is pretty much, I'm a head teacher at the moment, so there's just a lot of admin.
Yep.
Uh, Dealing with students in the classroom is actually my secondary kind of
Mm,
role at the moment because it's, yeah, trying to get on top of a whole bunch of administrative issues surrounding distance education and
mm,
things like that because we're a rural and remote school.
yep.
So a lot of administration, working with TAFEs and universities and other schools outside our little kind of bubble.
Mm,
So a lot of pencil pushing, I guess, which
yeah.
is unfortunate because the fun is when you're kind of actually teaching kids.
Yeah. 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 It's a bit dry, I can imagine.
But I like to get to work early so I can leave early.
Yep.
So I'm out the door pretty quickly. And
Hmm.
once again, we don't get to dodge as many animals on the way home, which is nice.
No, that's probably a bit more relaxing.
It actually is. It's audiobook time.
Aha, that's great. So you're an audiobook fan over physical?
No, I kind of do read list when I revisit a book, I quite often do it as an audiobook.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm doing the Painted Man kind of demon cycle at the moment. So I'm working my way through that on the way to work.
Nice.
It's one of the joys of not kind of traveling with anyone else because you don't have to cater for their kind of
What they
needs as
listen
well.
to. Yeah, yeah. No, I love a commute. I do like tuning out and just focusing on either a podcast or whatever. Audiobooks are great like that because it does take you into another world, even though you're doing your usual routine, boring commute. So
Hmm.
that's great. I love to hear that. Yeah. And so when you get
Yep.
home, is it writing time or other things
It's
like that?
kind of jobs and then family time.
Yeah.
And then most of my writing happens on the weekend,
Ah, okay.
or in many of those kind of hours at night when I just can't sleep.
Yep.
I'm kind of a bit of I get to sleep really quickly and then wake up and can't get back to sleep. So I get a lot of jobs done
Yeah.
uh,
That's so
at that time of
interesting.
night. It's actually really interesting. My best friend's a principal,
Uh-huh.
and we have very similar sleeping habits. So we'll quite often have conversations over the phone or via text at about 2 or 3 in the morning.
That's great. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
it's kind of fantastic. It's you kind of don't feel alone, even though
No.
no one in your house is awake.
I love that feeling when you know you're awake, but the whole world is asleep. Even though you
Yeah.
kind of in the back of your mind thinking, I should be asleep right now. I should be trying to prioritize rest. But there's something special about, you log on to social media and you're like, oh, who else is up? Oh, you're
Yeah.
up too. Let's chat. So that's super cool that you've got like a friend who matches your schedule.
Yeah, it's quite, and we found out completely by random one day, which kind of made it even better.
That's great. That's so cool. It just is serendipitous like that. I find that there is something interesting about because when I write, I usually write first thing in the morning if I can before work, depending on my schedule and things like that, because I feel like I'm not. inhibited by thinking too much about what I'm writing. It's more just
Mm.
like a go for it, don't think about it too much. And because I am groggy just waking up, that helps with that. Maybe is that a similar sort of thing that's happening with yourself because you're doing it at early hours in the morning where perhaps your brain is not as on with everything else that you have to prioritize that isn't creative in your life, maybe.
That's, I would say that's possibly a very realistic.
Mm.
I actually wrote a lot of the book when I wasn't teaching, and that was probably
Ah,
the 3 or 4 years I spent not teaching was the least stressed I've ever been since high school.
so
And I spent
interesting.
a lot of time writing and finishing the book, which ironically I started when I was teaching.
Mm.
Uh, and it started as a half an hour I need to do something that's not teaching.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
sat down and wrote the first 1,000 words, and
Wow.
that was where it all started.
That's where it all started. Just something to take you out of the mundane reality or things like that, or the stress as well.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
another, it was a really bad day. I was going through a really horrible
Mm,
time where I wasn't enjoying my job.
mm.
And I just needed something where I could vent
Yep.
without any repercussions. I've been at the same job for 15 years.
Yeah.
And it was just becoming, I guess there was a little bit of almost midlife crisis in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that everything was just becoming so mundane and feeling like part of just part of the scenery was not
Mm.
something that appealed to me anymore. Yeah, there was a lot going on in my life at the same time. And I just had this really random idea just to write things down. And it just started as a really kind of short introduction that just evolved and kept going. And every day I'd write a little bit more.
Mm, mm.
And then when I left teaching, I had no intention of going back to it. And then a friend of mine got a hold of what I had, which I think was about 15,000 words at the time, and read it. And he's like, "You need to finish this."
Yeah.
And I did. And the
Yeah.
rest's kind of history, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. I think that when it comes to writing in the creative process, I know I can be a little bit woo-woo with some of my beliefs and things like that, but I do believe the creative process, it's something that is kind of mysterious in a few
Mm.
different ways. It's just something that if you get the compulsion to do it, there's a kind of a reason for it. And yes, it can come from maybe if you're in a place where life isn't going so great and you need an outlet, and there's different ways that people choose outlets. And for you,
Mm.
your choice was to explore it creatively. So I think it's really special. And it's turned into something tangible as well, turned into a
Yeah,
full novel.
it has. And it's something I wouldn't kind of undo.
Yep,
It was for
it's
all the
meant to be.
stress that led to it and all
Mm,
the stress that followed it and finishing it and all that kind of thing. I don't think I would kind of change it. And
yeah.
I regret not finishing some of the things I started when I was younger.
Okay, that's interesting. It's very hard to, first of all, write a book. I find that that was probably the hardest thing that I've ever done. I don't know whether that's the same for yourself,
It
but
would be pretty close, yeah.
yeah, pretty close, pretty close. And so,
Having a teenager is probably the hardest, but
so that's just another aspect that you've had to compare it to. Um,
yes,
But yeah, I think there was I don't know whether you know Jay Kristoff, the
yeah,
author. Yeah, and he was talking about how I think someone had asked him for some advice about writing or something like that. And his response to that is if you have written a book, you are already, ahead of so many people that have started something that they haven't finished because a lot of people want to do it and they should want to do it. And it is such an amazing thing to do. But actually doing it is a whole different process. So, all those ideas that you had when you were younger that you started, you can always come back to them as well, I'm sure. But yeah,
I've had that thought.
yeah. That would be good to explore. So, you're already ahead of a lot of other people that have some manuscripts that haven't finished it. So, I'm always inspired by that. So we'll see what happens next for your
Yeah.
manuscripts that are out there. I would like to know about some of your favorite stories or movies or books in particular that captivated you when you were younger.
I've kind of been a lifelong reader.
Hmm.
I've kind of I clicked with books from a really early age, and I guess I had a year three teacher, Mr. Fife, his name was, and he was obsessed with exposing his class to fantasy.
Mm,
So we worked through the whole Narnia series over the course of that year,
that's great.
and I just kind of latched on to the fantasy kind of sci-fi genre after that.
Yep.
And yeah, that was the first year I read Lord of the Rings and The
Yep.
Hobbit,
Uh-huh.
and I've read it every year since then.
Yep.
I
Yep.
missed one year when I'd spent a little bit of time in hospital, and I just couldn't motivate myself to
That's
read anything.
totally fine. Totally.
But yeah, so that teacher and that school, which Uralla Central School, I'm only 3 houses from it. It's still there. My wife works there. My kids go there.
Wow.
So it had I had a number of teachers there that had a really profound kind of influence on what I read and what I watched.
Yeah.
And now I wouldn't say that's carried over into my writing,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But I haven't, I, I don't know whether I'm brave enough to tackle a fantasy novel at this point
Hmm. Hmm.
because I know what I like in a fantasy novel. And
Hmm.
I don't know whether I have the time or patience to go to the level of world building that someone like a Tolkien or a Sanderson has kind
Yes.
of done, because
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing that I really look for in a book.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so I don't know whether at this point I don't think I could
Mm.
do myself. I don't think I would do it justice, and therefore I don't know whether I'd like to do it,
Mm.
even though I have a lot of ideas that I'd like to do.
Yep. Yep.
Um, But I've recently obviously Brandon Sanderson's kind of a huge
Yes.
kind of influence on me.
Yep.
I think I have about 3 or 4 Stormlight tattoos. I've kind of lost count.
That's great.
Um, Probably one of the greatest series I've read in a long time, despite its flaws and a lot of criticism. I think it's copped a lot of criticism online recently.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I've just started to branch out into the cozy fantasy kind of genre,
Oh,
which
yep.
is
Yep.
quite interesting.
Yep.
So I predominantly read fantasy and sci-fi.
Yeah. Yeah.
So ironically, if I found my book on a bookshelf, I would probably not even pick it up and read the back of it.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't
So
it? Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it amuses my wife to no ends that I wrote a book that I wouldn't read myself.
I think it's such an interesting dichotomy there because you did write something that is, yeah, general fiction, contemporary fiction,
Mm.
but you yourself, your passions don't necessarily lie in that in your other world. So there is like a writing version of yourself. In a practical sense of what you've produced, but then there's your passion side that hasn't quite
Mm.
linked into writing yet. But I think probably I mean, you can tell me a bit more about this, but perhaps it was just a exercise to see how you can go about approaching writing from your first dip into it, I could imagine.
Yeah, I think that and that kind of writing from experience and having that
Mm.
personal kind of connection to what I was writing kind of
Hmm.
because some of the projects I started when I was younger were
Yep.
very much kind of dystopic fiction,
Yep.
kind of. There was never any high fantasy, but there was a lot of dystopic fiction which I just never got finished,
Yep.
and that was just because I like to tell myself because life happened, but I'm pretty sure there was a lack of real kind of drive
Yeah.
to
And
see
that's
something
life.
through to the end.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard. It's hard when there's so much pressure as well when you are trying to make it through, I don't know, outside of high school, going into uni, having to find a job, all that stuff takes over your mind, and that hasn't changed in years. And for myself, I only really started writing in 2019, 2020, and
Mm.
that was, after many years of going through uni, starting a full-time job, and then I felt the same as you, where it's like the mundane lifestyle that I had just was not doing it for me, and the creative compulsion never went away. And I'm sure
Mm.
it always finds a way to get back into you and sink its teeth into you so that it tells you you've got to write it, just do it. But when there's so much else going on, it's hard to have the motivation, and life
It
is
is.
busy. So yeah, yeah, it's
More time to do things like that would be quite great. But that what you mentioned there about that idea of kind of escapism
yeah.
is actually really interesting because I had a comment made where someone said to me that after they read my book that my writing for me must have been my kind of version of
Mm,
being a superhero, that kind of alter ego of
interesting.
kind of jumping out and doing something out of the mundane that's
Yeah.
totally unexpected. And that whole kind of putting the cowl on and becoming Batman, I guess, is the metaphor for it, and hiding that
Yep.
identity behind something that's not really what people would think that you would be.
But it's what you wanted to write. And I think
Yeah.
that, yeah, I think that's where it's come out and been such a passion project for yourself. So it's what you wanted to do. But that's really interesting that you've always been a reader from when you were younger, and how your teachers had such a profound impact on your passion for fantasy, because I know that, and I'm sure that's where you were, maybe why you were drawn to teaching as well, because you wanted to also give back that sort of passion to maybe the next generation that are coming through their education, your passion for reading, your passion for writing, and know that the impact that having a great, passionate teacher can have on
Mm.
students, because you never forgot your third year three teacher's name because of the
And
impact.
I still talk to a lot of my teachers. One of my high school history teacher was one of my groomsmen at my wedding.
That's
So
amazing.
it's
Yeah,
just
that's
teachers have
special.
always had this huge kind of all my really
Mm.
close friends are teachers.
Yep.
And it's kind of we're always told it's an incestuous profession. Um,
Yeah,
and I would say 90% of those friends of mine that are teachers married teachers.
yep,
And
because I get it.
it's just this great big fraternity, I guess. And
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know many people that are teachers that aren't where they are because of that influence of
yeah,
very strong teachers. And I was really lucky. I had some amazing. I can probably count on two fingers the amount of teachers I had that were just terrible.
wow, that's
And
good. Yeah.
that's looking back with my teacher hat on, going, wow, I don't know how they had a job, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's really quite interesting
yeah,
to use that kind of to look back and look at those teachers and figure out that individually what I got from them.
yeah.
And there's some of that in my writing, and I think there's a few in my kind of dedication at the front of the book as well.
To your educators that you've, experienced and had a, yeah, great relationship with. That's so special. I think because teaching in the, well, from the teacher friends that I have, in this current climate, working here in Melbourne, a lot of them are burnt out, and a lot of them are just so over the stress of it all, especially in the secondary world. So I'm sure there's just such a big desire for from them to try and instill passion and the joy of learning, but it does get bogged down in how stressful it is dealing with certain kids, and also the school life and the admin, which is what you were talking about as well with your job getting, yeah, there's just so much other stuff that goes into the teaching, where you probably just would love it if it was just having the teacher student relationship and talking and teaching. If that was all it was, it would be great. But
I think
there's
we'd
more
have a
to
lot
it.
more teachers as well.
Yes, we'd have a lot more teachers because that's the dream, to inspire people and to have a good connection with what you're passionate about teaching. That's the other stuff that gets in the way. So
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly. Paperwork, bureaucracy.
Bureaucracy, that all stuff, the education system. So I would love to get more into films have given me trust issues, which is the title of your book. And I love the cover. It's very like kind of art deco in a way, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very arty. As a graphic designer by trade, I very much appreciate it. I'm just going to bring it up on my computer because I was just going to explain the what the cover looks like for people who might just be listening. Um, so the cover I've got here, I've just brought it up on Goodreads. It's the one where it's got this font that's in, it's a white font where it's got films have given me trust issues. Well, the have given me is actually in the burgundy font, burgundy color. And there's a profile of a woman down the bottom who's kind of got red hair with glasses on top of her head. And she's got, I think, a little film strip behind her. So it's a bit minimalist, but it's very effective with the composition. So, did you have any say in how the cover was created?
I did.
Yep,
I that was that kind of minimalist kind of art deco kind of style is pretty much what I wanted.
yep.
I didn't want it to be too kind of crowded or over the top.
Mm.
Um, the second edition cover I actually like a bit better because
Oh,
it's a
yes.
darker kind of a darker blue. And
Yes.
I'm probably one of the least arty people around. So I'm just one of those I know what I like kind of
Yep,
things. So
yep.
when I had those little kind of suggestions and I spoke to an art teacher friend of mine who kind of threw a few ideas around and yeah, we it was all sorted and I was a big fan. I can't remember the exact handle of the lovely designer that did it all for me, and she
That's
was
all right.
amazing. And I will put it
Yeah,
in
send it to me and I'll
the
pop it in the description for the
yeah,
video. Yes.
yeah,
So,
she was
yeah.
fantastic, and I'm working with her at the moment, hopefully on cover two. So
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, I could definitely see how this aesthetic could lend itself to all different kinds of styles if you changed up the background, a different color, or the profile of the main character, I believe, on the front.
yes, yeah,
So also going back to the new cover does have the darker background. The font's all the same, but the profile of the woman, the big change is the hairstyle. It is still a
yeah,
red hair, but it is not in a bun. She still has the glasses on top of her head, but it is more like a swooped sort of like bob cut. And yeah, it's super
which is how
fabulous.
she's described in the book. So that was the main
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
reason for that. So
It's perfect. It's funny how you say you're perhaps like not artistic, but you've got a passion for tattoos, is that right? You've got a few different tattoos.
yeah, I have usually
Yeah,
just kind of representing things that are special, I guess.
yeah.
So
I think there's an artistic flair in there. If you're happy to see something and go, I want that on my body, I think that's the sign of someone who is a bit of a creative, artistic person. So, yeah, it is cool. I think you know what you like.
pretty
So,
much, yeah.
yeah, that's cool. I like that. I'm a big fan of tattoos as well. I don't have any like super big ones, like big pieces, but I have like just like little, oh, it's hard to see, but it's just like a
Yeah.
sword and like a moon, and then another one here, another one on my back, and like little fine line ones. So
Yeah, I'm a bit the same. I have nothing kind of
just
massive or
everywhere. Yeah,
just little
yeah.
bits everywhere.
I don't know whether you know the author. She's an indie author who's a friend of mine, Jess McFarlane. I'll have to send you the link to her profile. She has like full sleeves dedicated to her books, and her
Oh
tattoo
wow.
artist is based in Melbourne, and her writing is historical fiction, I think about Irish culture. And it's the series is, well, the first book's Woman of Wolves, and I reckon you'd really like it. Yeah, really enjoyed Woman of Wolves. Shout out to Jess. I'm always name dropping her. But yes, you should definitely check out her tattoos as well because maybe one day if you write something that is a fantasy book, you might get a tattoo of your own
I,
story
I've
on
actually
yourself.
thought about getting something related to the book, and I
Yeah,
can't, I just don't know what to do
yeah,
yet. So
I know. Well, you never know. Maybe like a little film reel or something like that. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. So we'll have
I'll
to get
get
into
there
that.
eventually. It's just a matter of
Exactly.
making up my mind.
I should get into a question that I have for you about a reviewer who left a really interesting review on your Goodreads page. And this reviewer describes the book as this book is perfect for film enthusiasts and anyone who has ever questioned the gap between fantasy and reality. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts around that.
I vaguely remember that one. It's
Mm,
actually another really interesting kind of point in that the connection to film didn't
yes.
happen as it
Mm.
wasn't a plan. It just kind of happened organically, and it's it was never intended to kind of bridge that gap and kind of have people question that. It was
Yeah.
more about um, the challenges of what the kind of Hollywood and the film world kind of throws out to us as a way of showing us what the supposed perfect life is
Mm,
and
mm,
societal expectations on people, in this case, particularly on kind of middle-aged women,
yeah.
which is really strange to say out loud as a middle-aged man.
Yeah,
But
it's good to explore.
it was, yeah, that was a different experience in itself. That's another kind of story for off on the side.
Mm,
But yeah, it's that was kind of the intention of it. There was no real kind of to kind of like when I read that, I kind of I got the impression it was kind of talking about this a woman or a character who's not sure which world they're living in, that kind of
mm,
idea of reality or cinema. But it is more about that idea of someone being so exposed to Hollywood and
mm.
uh, the outs and this kind of artificial reality essentially that's created
Yeah.
by authors and
Mm,
filmmakers, and that expectation of kind of having to live up to that and
yeah.
fit into that kind of perfect little mold.
Yeah. And it's such a strange world that is so kind of small and insular when you think about it, the Hollywood world, but yet its impact on Western society in particular is like intense, especially with I guess beauty standards
Mm.
for women in general really have come from the glamorous life of celebrity culture, whether it is necessarily always from Hollywood, but I think Hollywood also has probably one of the biggest impacts on that when it comes to not wanting to age or the term age gracefully or whatever that
Yeah,
means, and how the value of you see certain women who reach middle age that don't get cast in certain roles versus their male counterparts that are perhaps of the same age that do get cast into the main roles or the desirable roles and things like that. But Hollywood prefers a younger version for a woman or something like that. So that's a good exploration into gender roles as well when it comes to this
yeah,
glamorous life.
and it all kind of it went down that path simply
Mm,
because I started noticing just constant references to films and television and things like that. So that kind of it just kind of naturally evolved into something where this girl was living vicariously through film, I think,
yeah,
and
yeah.
constantly comparing herself to what she's seen.
Yeah. Yeah. She's just seeing something that looks so incredible, but the reality behind it is a pressure cooker of so many different intense expectations that are put on the character. And so I really like that there is a bit of a talk around like fantasy and escapism because it does link to how you describe your own writing process is an escapism as well. And this was a book that is totally different to your passions as well, as we mentioned before. So I find that really fascinating to hear about that. So when we go back to the films part of the films have given me trust issues, are there any particular films that inspired your book?
Not really,
Hmm.
but it was kind of I took it from a it's kind of the book itself is kind of I describe it as semi-autobiographical,
Yep.
but told from this persona that's just takes it so far away from me that I
Yeah.
kind of can feel removed from it
Yep.
emotionally and mentally.
Mm.
But I guess from what people have the some of the female friends of mine that have read it have kind of compared it to a Bridget Jones's Diary kind
Yeah.
of vibe.
I get that. Yeah.
But that wasn't the intention. I never had anything like that in mind. It was just something that once again just evolved kind of
Yeah.
naturally, I guess.
What it was going to be was what it's going to be. Yeah, and I think probably do people do like to link it to stuff that they're familiar with. And Bridget Jones is have you seen Bridget Jones's
Yeah,
diaries? Yeah. So like,
yeah.
the character that's so like down in the dumps and trying to like figure out her life, that is something that is so relatable for a lot of people across gender. It's something that it's like, I just wish my life was so much different than what it is. And films are a great escapism into that as well. So,
It's kind of interesting. It's the music in it that actually reflects kind of me personally a little bit more
okay.
than the film aspect of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Wow.
kind of
So what kind of
that's
music and things like that do you reckon
I
has
I have a
influenced?
really kind of eclectic taste in music, and I think that's reflected in the
Yep.
book. I kind of annoyed a lot of people when I made a derogatory comment about uh Luke Combs's music
Oh.
in the book. I got a few nasty tongue-in-cheek text messages and phone calls from some friends of mine who were like, "What? How can you say that?" But anyway, that was just
Yes.
some personal preconceptions put within the about country music, country and western and that kind of thing. So
People get
yeah,
heated about country and Western
yeah, they
music, the
do.
diehards.
I never
Yeah.
I never actually expected to cop any kind of criticism for that. I thought of all things there'd be criticism for some other things,
Yeah,
but
right.
the not that side of things.
Not Luke Combs.
So yeah, so
Don't come for
I
him.
kind of yeah, no, I could, and he was touring at the time. I think he was kind of about the
Oh
time
no.
that people were doing some read. He was actually in the country or planning a
Great.
tour, and it was just it wasn't good timing.
But it's your book. You can say whatever you want, and I'm with you there. I'm
Yeah,
not
and that's
particularly
what
keen on
the
that.
funny thing is the people that commented knew me relatively well, and they're like, "We knew that, but you just can't say that." I'm like, "Okay,
Oh,
fair enough. I'll take it on board."
it's your book. It's your book. If they don't like it, oh well, you're not trying to offend. Yeah, and I feel like that's just like a strange criticism to have, but yeah, that's interesting.
It just,
That's
I guess,
interesting.
it shows how passionate people are about that kind of thing.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I wanted to ask you about what it was like writing the dynamic between Hannah and Katie, because it does seem like a bit of a wild ride for a lot of the interactions. And did you have a lot of fun writing that, but also find it kind of cathartic in an interesting way?
I I did have a lot of fun. Katie is based off about two or three of my really close friends, kind of thrown into one
Yep.
um, really attractive female kind of ball.
Mm.
She's almost a stereotype, but not quite.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, there's writing those kind of interactions between the two was probably it was probably my second favorite part of writing the book.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
so
Yep.
they have this really, I think it's this really amazing kind of almost it's almost a negative relationship
Yeah.
in that
They
there's
bring out the
almost a level of
worst.
there's a level of self-reliance,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's something that I see within myself with some kind of friends of mine where I just become really overly reliant on that friendship.
Totally.
that's something that is very present with Katie and Hannah.
Yep.
And so that was really interesting to explore. Uh,
Mm.
but I think looking at some of her other friends that aren't quite there, because obviously the main focus of the book is those two,
Yep.
and 95% of the conversation and the dialogue is between those two.
Yep.
But there's a whole series of interludes which were actually really fun to write and don't feature Katie at all.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
which is really bizarre to take a main character out of the action for long extended periods of time. But
Hmm.
I think that also made it more fun to revisit her when we came back.
Yeah. Yeah. When you come
She's
back to
almost
it.
kind of like a fairy godmother kind of savior kind of character that kind of gets rudely and abruptly brought into Hannah's life.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that you say that the friendship style or that kind of not coping mechanism, but um like reliance on a friendship like that is so common and so
Mm.
shared when you have someone that you, I guess, to the buzzword of this is like a trauma bond kind of thing,
Yeah.
where you just have that person that's seen you at like awful parts and you know that they're probably not the best for you and they've got their own stuff that they need to sort out, but yet there's so many good times that you have. I think it's
Mm.
super relatable. So I really enjoy that. So did you say that the writing the relationship between Katie and Hannah was your second favorite? Was your favorite the interlude part?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 That was almost the semi-autobiographical part of it. Like the main kind
Yeah.
of like the Hannah's relationship with the people in her past are
Yeah.
very kind of reflective of some of the not like for like, but
Yeah.
I tried to very much incorporate bits and pieces from my experiences, particularly with friendship, and I was hoping that would come through a lot more, that whole commentary on positives and negative friendships, and
Yeah.
that kind of, I
It's
guess it's
important.
you'd nearly call it a some kind of psychological,
Mm.
probably not an issue, but where you
Mm.
become so reliant on one person and so fixated on one particular person,
Mm.
and then something happens and they're no longer in your life anymore, and you have to cope and you have to bounce and move on and find someone else.
Yes.
And just that,
Codependency. That's what I was thinking of.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct. Yeah, and it's just
Yeah.
that bouncing from friend to friend and trying to fill in the gaps in the middle where everything goes wrong and you've
Yeah.
got no one.
And people talk about um, romantic breakups so much more than friendship breakups, where friendship breakups arguably are a lot more intense and a lot
Yeah.
more, I don't know how to describe it. I feel like it takes you longer to get over a friendship breakup than a romantic breakup. There's something so raw about it and
Mm.
something that is so personal and deeper in a lot of ways than romantic relationships that, yeah, I'm really glad that this book exists for talking about that kind of stuff because it's so relatable.
And I think the kind of what makes it that slightly more relatable is the idea that not all friendships end because there's a fight.
Yep,
It could be just something simple as someone drifting apart,
that's it.
or one person doesn't feel that the connection's as strong as another, and that things
Yeah,
happen and they move away, and
they
that
move
connection,
away.
that bond isn't maintained.
No, no. And that can be as simple as that. And it still hurts just the same as if it was a big fight.
Mm. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, it's great. Alrighty, so I'm wondering what's next for you with your writing. Is there going to be a sequel for films?
So I actually have two projects on the run, and I need to kind of
Mm,
decide which one I'm going to finish because I'm kind of bouncing between two.
yep.
There is a direct sequel, so which the fact that there's a direct sequel kind of is a little bit of a spoiler, I guess, for the ending, and that everything kind of continues.
Hmm. Hmm.
The world doesn't end. There's no kind of great Armageddon event or anything.
That's all right. It's
But
great.
the other one is kind of contemporary fiction as well, and it's more. I've shifted back to that kind of male perspective,
Yep.
and it's a lot more biographical,
Hmm.
autobiographical, without being once again directly kind of
Yeah, like not on
for
the
light because I
nose.
haven't had that exciting a life. It's not that exciting, but I like to include there's a lot of hyperbole, which I think's kind of fantastic.
Yep.
There's that element of realism, and then there's taking it almost to the extreme.
Yep. That's great.
So they're the two that I'm kind of working on at the moment.
Yeah,
I've
nice.
scribbled down some plans for some other things, but I can't. I just need to pick one and just finish it.
Yep.
So
It's
uh,
hard.
I'm I need to. I'm going to finish the sequel because revisiting the book again. I just read it myself again, and I thought, okay, so now I'm actually motivated to get through and finish that sequel.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of gave you that buzz. You're like, oh, yeah, that's why I enjoyed writing it in the first place. You read it
Found
again,
a
you're
whole
like,
bunch of
yeah,
found
yeah,
a whole bunch of typos, but that will leave.
everyone's been there. All right. So we'll finish up with everything. Thank you so much for your
No worries.
time and talking about films because it's been fabulous hearing all about it. I've been really curious about getting your perspective about this book, obviously, as the writer yourself. It's really interesting to hear all about the process behind it. And I just find it still so interesting how fantasy is your passion and somewhere like you live in that world, but contemporary fiction was your first foray into the published world. So I love that.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It really is.
It's bizarre. But hey, more hats under your what do you call it? Feathers in your cap, so to speak. Because authors do like to go between different genres, and you could have a different pen name as well if you do write in fantasy. Could be something with your initials.
And something a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah, something a bit different. So we'll see what happens. So I'm wondering if you can let us know where people can find you on social media, which platforms you have, and where people can buy films.
So I've got a website which I haven't really kind of visited in a while, unfortunately, because of work, but it's at www.bentobler.com.au.
Hmm.
Um, I'm mostly kind of on Instagram. My Facebook kind of page is mostly kind of a personal kind of thing, I guess. I didn't make that social media transition. I'm horrible at publicity and doing all that kind of thing.
Another thing
And
we've got to
I'm
do.
my Instagram thing is at Virgin Rider 81.
Yep.
Uh, obviously the Virgin Rider part was my first book, so it
Yeah.
hadn't been published. So that was that asked a lot of people have asked that question.
Hey,
So,
now you might have to
but
change it.
yeah, I think I am going to have to actually. But yeah, so they're
Yeah.
they're the main places you can reach me. Books are obviously through Amazon. Kindle's selling really well, which is nice. I think it's pretty cheap on Kindle at the moment,
Yeah,
and it's
that's
through
great.
Kindle Unlimited. So,
Yes,
and
get onto that.
a lot of people are just ordering it through their local bookshop as well, and they're getting it in and doing that kind of thing. It's pretty accessible.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty accessible, and I'll make sure to link it in our description as well for people to access because I think it's such
Awesome.
a great book that people should pick up and just get into a bit of escapism, but with a contemporary setting. So it's fabulous. Thank you so much for today, Ben. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate all your insights into your indie author life experience, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
No worries. All right.